Hello athletes, this is Travis coming back with another training video. Today's topic is going to be covering what you should be doing or how you should be approaching your aerobic training sessions when you're just getting back into things, whether that's after a shorter break of a couple weeks or a couple months, or a long hiatus of years. And maybe you're coming back after starting a career, having a family, having kids, whatever it may be. This is going to be focused on exactly what the kind of most effective way is to get back into your groove after that break. But before we dive into that topic, I do want to make sure that everyone that is watching knows that if you are interested in connecting with me for some one-on-one consultations, either to talk through some questions that you have about your training, or even to actually create a training program for you, to definitely check out gtsrowing.com, where there are options for remote coaching, where I will give you an outline of your training program and then walk you through those sessions to make sure that you understand exactly how you should be executing your UT2, UT1, transport AT, all that fun stuff, and how you should be balancing it and fitting it with the rest of your day, or just a simple consultation where we connect for a phone or Zoom call and we can kind of troubleshoot and talk through some questions. So definitely check out GTS Rowing. But to get back to the topic at hand today of what we need to be doing to get back into training effectively over time. Now there's going to be two main approaches that we want to take for this. All right, there's going to be one, we can either approach it with a short volume and a higher effort level, or we can go bring that effort level down really low and start with kind of higher volume and then gradually ease that effort back into your sessions. Now, the quick and easy answer to this is that both of those are effective if you approach them properly, and the main factor in decision making between one approach or another is going to be based on your psychology, what works best for you, what motivates you, what kind of keeps you engaged in the process. All right, now beyond whether you should be doing longer volume at lower intensity or shorter volume at higher efforts, the absolute most important thing when you're getting back into things, or even once you are into things and you're continuing going, is consistency. All right, and so the absolute most important thing, if you're getting back into it and you're trying to get yourself a place to where you can be either competitive or extremely fit, is that you need to make sure that you are doing and following a training program that is sustainable and something that is going to keep you motivated. All right, because one, you should be training every day at a minimum. If you do need to be doing other activities on some days, that's fine, as long as you're staying active. I would generally recommend, if you want to perform in a sport, that you should be doing at least 3 days a week in that sport. That's kind of the bare minimum of being moderately competitive in that activity. Certainly you can just do it 1 or 2 times a week if you're just doing it recreationally and you're just doing it for enjoyment and you have lots of other things that you're pursuing. But if you do want to be competitive, generally 3 times a week is going to be kind of the minimum for that. But ideally, you're going to do something every day. All right, that's not saying that you're doing hard work every day. That's just saying that you are keeping your muscles active in your target activity on a daily basis. All right. And I am a big advocate for not scheduling rest days in your training. I think that active rest, so basically kind of either doing a very light row on the indoor rower, or doing some other kind of athletic activity at a low intensity, is going to be better for your body than taking a complete rest day. Certainly there are exceptions. If you're sick, if you're injured, all those cases, it should be a rest day. If you're just really kind of struggling mentally, you got a lot of other stressors going on, take a day off. It's not a big deal. But for me in my own training and for the athletes that I work with, I don't ever plan off days in their training, because especially for adults, people who aren't students, who aren't training on a very fixed schedule with a team, life is going to get in the way a lot of times, and those off days are going to happen no matter what. So you don't need to plan them. All right, you just need to kind of work around them when they come into it. And if they don't happen, great, stay active, do something light on the days that you need to kind of rest and regenerate, but don't just sit on your butt and do nothing. All right, I'm not an advocate for that. But getting back into things, all right, so other than being consistent and trying to make sure that you're doing something on a daily basis, what is it that you're going to be doing on any of those days? Do you hop on, do you row 20 minutes nice and hard, 5K, whatever it may be, or do you hop on for 60 minutes and just kind of get in the miles, and don't go too crazy at it? Because again, this is assuming that you're just getting back into it after a long break. All right. And what I say with that is you need to go with what works for you mentally. All right. what situation allows you to stay focused and engage in the process, all right? So for some athletes, the volume is not a mental stressor, the intensity is the mental stressor, all right? So if you can sit down for 60 minutes and just kind of tap along, albeit nowhere close to where the kind of speed that you would be doing if you were in shape, then do that. Over time, as you move through those first couple months, your power output, your intensity will gradually move to the point that it needs to be for you to kind of be in a good position to transition into a competitive phase, or simply to extend that base building period and get as much aerobic development as you can before you make that shift into that competitive phase. Now, if you are doing that, all right, it is essential to get that intensity up, all right? I'm a big believer that 60 minutes should be kind of a standard median aerobic session for any athlete that's intending to compete in the standard rowing distances, all right? So 1,000 meters, 2,000 meters, even a head race, that 60 minutes is kind of a benchmark, all right? That's not the max, all right? You should be doing a longer session, generally about maybe 30% longer, once every 7 to 10 days, maybe every 14 days, all right? So if 60 minutes is your medium, then, once every week, 10 days, 2 weeks, you should be getting a session that's about 80 minutes, all right? And then beyond that, you should also be balancing that with lighter days, all right? So another thing I'm an advocate for is having longer days and shorter days complement each other, all right? So if you're going out and you're doing nearly the same thing every single day, that's not good. That's not an effective training stimulus, all right? Training is most effective when you are loading and then unloading, loading and then unloading, all right? So if you're going out and you're rowing 40 minutes every day, and you're doing roughly the same pressure, maybe some days you do a little lighter, some days you do a little heavier, but you're still doing 40 minutes of roughly the same quality of work every day, then that is not effective training and is not nearly going to be as beneficial as doing one day where you're doing 60 minutes of good firm hard pressure UT2, and then the next day where you're doing 20 minutes just nice and easy light row. 60 minutes, 20 minutes, 60 minutes, 20 minutes, all right? That's gonna be way more effective than doing 40 minutes of just kind of mid-range work on a daily basis, all right? So keep that in mind if you're going straight to that higher volume, all right? Now, the other approach is doing short volume, but keeping the same kind of high effort level that you would expect once you get into shape, all right? And now, effort level isn't going to be tied to your split, to your speed, all right? Certainly, within any given session or even within a given microcycle or week of training, then that split is going to be indicative of your effort, but is not an absolute measure, all right? So if I use myself as an example, if I am in really good shape, all right, and it'll probably take me anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get there from nothing. If I'm in really good shape, UT2 probably gonna be about 157, 158 split, all right? If I'm just getting back into it, all right, and if I hop on and I do 10, 15 minutes on the rower and I haven't done anything for years, then that split's probably gonna be like a 210, 212. All right, and I've been in that position, all right, and so I've gone years and so without any kind of regular training where I may be rowing once a month, once every 2 months, and I'd hop on and 10 minutes was the volume that I would put in, and I would work hard, and that hard work was, a 210. And if I was in that situation, it would take me several months to get to where that hard work could be, one, sustained for 60 minutes, and two, would be in that power output range. But what I'm talking about in effort is not split. It is how you feel, all right? Are you working very hard on a per stroke basis, or are you just kind of spinning nice and easy at conversational or maybe near conversational pace? Now, I do talk about how I believe your intensity should be for your aerobic training, all right? I'm a big believer in UT2 training. I do believe that there's a lot of misconception out there about what UT2 training is specifically, especially when it comes to heart rate and people that are trying to use heart rate to dictate their training zones, all right? UT2 is not a heart rate training zone. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 5, those are heart rate training zones, and occasionally those heart rate training training zones will intersect with a UT2, UT1, AT transport in a way that kind of fits kind of the generalized pattern that is promoted, but I do believe that is wrong. I do believe that zone 2 especially is not UT2 for the vast majority of people, mainly because heart rate does not dictate your blood lactate concentration, all right? And blood lactate concentration is going to be what's going to determine UT2, UT1, AT transport, all right? And another issue with that, before I get back to the main subject here, is that there will be intersections. There will be people who a zone 2 intersects with their UT2, all right? But that does not mean that zone 2 is UT2 for everybody. It just happens to be for that small population, zone 2 and UT2 fall within the same range, all right? For me in particular, zone 3 is what kind of intersects with my UT2 training, maybe even a little bit of borderline zone 4. I have athletes that, you know, commonly train high-end zone 3, low-end zone 4 for their UT2. And so you just can't use that heart rate to dictate it, all right? And unfortunately, the more fit you are, the lower your heart rate is going to be for a higher blood lactate concentration. And so that's when you'll get a lot of elite athletes whose UT2 will fall into the zone 2, and everybody thinks that just because it works for an elite athlete, it should work for them, but that is not the case, all right? And so those elite athletes will say, hey, do your UT2, this is how you measure it with heart rate, and that is just not correct for the vast majority of people. Even for me, my heart rate zones for UT2 are gonna be much lower when I am in shape versus when I'm out of shape, all right? So don't let that interfere with your ability to just get in and work hard, all right? Ditch the heart rate monitor, trust your instincts. If you're rowing for 40 minutes, UT2 is going to be a pace that you can hold, that you can be fairly aggressive at following your warm-up, all right? Always get your warm-up first, that you can be aggressive at for that 40 minutes without getting to a place of failure or without getting to a place where you can no longer sustain the effort that you're doing. Another key point is that a UT2 effort, albeit hard, is one that you should be able to do probably for at least 50% more volume, if not double the volume of you're doing for a session, all right? So a good UT2 effort done for 60 minutes is an effort that could easily be sustained for another 30 minutes, and maybe with a little bit more effort, more energy output could be sustained for another hour, all right, without you losing speed, all right? That's another indicator for what good UT2 is. But going back into things, all right? And so the other approach that I advocate is just going at that effort level, all right, at that UT2 effort level, which is going to correspond to certain blood lactate, all right, which you don't need to measure, just trust how you feel. And so, you know, I mentioned earlier, you know, having taken a break for, you know, a long period of time, both for career and for getting sick. You know, I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 32. And that certainly wiped out my fitness through that treatment, and it was years before I really kind of got back into any kind of regular training, and so basically starting from zero. And so for me, during that time when I was kind of in that transition, when I was recovering from being sick, when I was working a lot, you know, too much, you know, quite frankly, 10 minutes was about all I could kind of take mentally, but when I hopped on, it was good hard work for that 10 minutes, all right? And so for me, I do not want to sit on mentally. My mental conditioning is my limiting factor, not my physical conditioning. And so I cannot, when I'm out of condition from rowing or training in any regular way, I cannot mentally handle the volume, all right? You know, I've gone on places where 60 minutes was my warm-up for a 2-hour plus steady state session, and that was kind of a regular occurrence, all right? I'm nowhere near that right now, all right? And so I am deconditioned mentally to where if I'm not doing anything, 10 minutes is it. I can get on 10 minutes, good quality work, that's done, all right? And so if you're one of those athletes, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, whether it's 30 minutes, and you like to work hard on that, that's fine. Just know that if you want to perform at a high level for those middle distance events, pretty much anything 1,000 meters, you know, up to, you know, what would be a typical head race distance, so maybe 6,000 meters or so. Even 500 meters is going to require a lot more of an endurance base than even a 1-minute piece. But for the most part, definitely 1,000 meters up, you need that aerobic base. You need to be able to sit down for 60 minutes at a time, a good solid work. And if you are starting out and you can only get on, do a 5K, do 10 minutes, do 20 minutes, do 30 minutes, whatever it may be. Your goal is to get to where you can do that 60 minutes as a standard volume length. And the way that you do that is you just do it every day. All right, so you do, if 10 minutes is your deal, you do 10 minutes every day. And then eventually you're gonna get to the point mentally conditioned where it's no big deal to go another 5 minutes. All right, and then after another week or two, it's gonna be a no big deal to do another 10 minutes. And then, and so on and so forth. So over the course of 2-3 months, you'll get to the point where mentally it is no longer a challenge to put in 40, 50, 60 minutes of volume, all right? And essentially, as you've been doing that, the effort has been the same, all right? It's been a good, aggressive pressure, all right? Though your split is definitely going to decrease, all right? You know, so for me, if I'm getting back on into things, generally, if I had a long break, sit on 10 minutes, I'm gonna probably pop out a 2-10 split. All right, and so, and over the course of the first month, that might get down to where I can be holding, you know, a 205, 206 split, maybe a 204 split, and maybe I'm at a place where I can do 20, 30 minutes, all right? And then over the course of another couple months, it'll get to the point where, you know, I'm hitting 2-minute splits and I can easily get in 40, 50 minutes with a 60 or 70 minute steady state every week or 2 weeks or whatnot, all right? And then eventually, if I want to compete at a high level again, I would expect that 60 minutes is the standard. So I'm alternating 60-minute work days, 30-minute rest days, or easy days, and then every once in a while I'm putting in a longer 90-minute session or so. And then of course I'm sprinkling in UT1, AT, transport as appropriate for that thing. And I actually have a video where I talk very, very specifically about how much UT1, AT, transport you should be putting into your training based on how much volume of UT2 that you're doing. I'll link that video up here so you can click on that if you're interested in that conversation. But the key thing is decide for you what's going to keep you motivated. Is it working hard for a short period of time and then expanding the amount of time that you can hold that effort, or is it putting in a lot of volume and then as you get more fit, being able to be more aggressive and more powerful for that amount of volume? All right, and so make that decision. The key thing is, will this keep me motivated? Am I enjoying what I am doing? If the answer is no, then you should back off, all right? So people underappreciate the mental fatigue of training. They focus exclusively on the physical side and assume that they gotta push through the mental side, where that is not a good strategy, all right? And so you should be stressing yourself psychologically with the same kind of patterns that you stress yourself physically, all right? And so if it's, you know, say you should do 3 hard sessions a week, then you should also physically, then you should also be thinking, maybe I should only be doing 3 hard mental sessions a week, you know, as I go through for that mental conditioning, all right? You definitely don't want to be at a place where on a daily basis you are struggling to motivate yourself to get to the end of your workouts, all right? You know, and I would even say limit that to once a week where you are really kind of struggling mentally to get through a training session, all right? That should not be a regular basis, all right? That is the recipe for burnout and for just quitting and or backing off or finding something else that you're more interested in doing, all right? Keep it fun, keep it engaging, because consistency is going to be the most important factor in your training, all right? So that's it. Find what works for you. Make sure that if you want to compete middle distance, then 60 minutes is your long-term goal. Don't be afraid if that takes years, all right? When I was coming back from chemotherapy and treatment, it was a 2-year process, or at least a 1.5 years process for me to get from where I was going 10 minutes was all I could do, 10 minutes of good hard work, to where I could do 60 minutes of quality work or do interval sessions as I was prepping for the world record you know, attempts that I did on the indoor rower. You know, that was a very long process. I wasn't like in 3 months I'm gonna get from being totally out of shape to being where I can do things that are meaningful again, all right? You must be patient, all right? Wait for that process, and the longer your break has been, the longer that process back is gonna be. But if you're making sure that you're enjoying that process and you're keeping your workouts challenging but invigorating, and you're balancing those with rest days where you're just keeping your body moving and conditioned to the motion, then that's where you're going to see success, all right? But thanks for listening, guys. I hope that answers some questions out there. Thank you to the people that ask questions in the comments. This video is inspired by such a question, so thank you to that individual for asking that questions and inspiring this conversation. Definitely throw some questions down below. If you have any about this topic, I'm happy to answer them, or if I've already answered them, I can kind of direct you to another video that will cover that topic. And if you're just finding this channel for the first time, definitely subscribe or share it with other people that you think would be helped by this this conversation topic. But that's it. Have a great day, guys, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.